Well, 4 days down for Bobcat Fall Camp in 2018. We're joined by offensive coordinator Brian Armstrong. And the question that everybody emails, texts, questions me about is the quarterback battle, so I thought I'd ask you instead of me trying to lie to everybody and guess. So what are you seeing out of the 5 guys that are competing right now?
I think the biggest thing that jumps out is they're all different. They all have different strengths and different weaknesses. Some of them are a little bit more similar to each other than others, but you know, we've got to at least whittle it down to a manageable number, because trying to rep 5 guys, and the challenge is trying to whittle it down to a manageable number to truly find out who's competing. And it's the 3rd, 4th day of practice, and everything else isn't clean, so it's hard to, there's some errant snaps and some stuff today. But I know one thing: we've got some good players at that position. I think whoever wins the job, ends up winning the job, is going to end up being a good player, and we need to do a good job surrounding him. And we got some guys around him. He doesn't have to do everything, but the battle rages on.
How long or how soon maybe before you get a little better sense of that pecking order?
I think Saturday is going to be our first scrimmage, so I would think after Saturday we'd at least have a depth chart. Right now it's kind of a seating chart. It changes every day. Coach Cole will change it up a little bit, but I would think after Saturday, after the scrimmage, we'd have at least a depth chart for sure.
You got a couple of positions that have crazy good talent, but some guys that are unproven commodities. Wide receiver is one of those spots. Kevin Cassis is the top returner. He caught 21 balls last year. I mean, that's the most veteran guy you have coming back, but as I say, there's a lot of talent there. So what have you seen out of the guys that are working in at wide receiver?
The thing I love about our wide receivers is just I think they love to play ball. I mean, you look at guys like Willie Patterson, who really emerged in the spring. We weren't really sure, what he was going to be in the fall as a redshirt, and he and Coy Steele, who, probably the hardest worker. If there's a harder working guy on the team, I'd like to see him. Lance continues to do a great job, and those guys are all young too, and so the more success they have, the more success kind of breeds success, if that makes sense. You get them the ball, but we have some guys that you get them the ball in their hands, they can make some plays.
And you've got a diverse set of skills. I mean, we've even seen Travis Johnson line up as a wide receiver. In the spring, we saw Willie and Coy run the ball some. So with the different skill set, how creative can you be as a play caller?
I think we need to be creative. I think we need to be creative. Like you said, we don't know who's quarterback spot, and so we need to be creative and get the ball in the hands of our best players.
And then at running back, everything is different, all the way down to position coach included. So how has that group come together as you've watched these guys mature through camp?
We're a work in progress there. I think still the one, I wouldn't say old dog, because Carl just moved to running back in the spring, but he's played more there in this system as much as anybody. He's out with a hamstring, so right now we're repping a lot of Tyrell Burgess, who's been a running back, a wide receiver back to running back. Isaiah Infonse is having a good camp, and again, Lane Sumner is doing a heck of a job. Again, I think a spot that we're young, but we have some talent. We just got to expedite the growing pains, if that makes sense, and try to work through the growing pains and get those guys ready to go.
The 2 most veteran groups on your team are offensive line and tight end, the guys up front. Let's talk O-line real quick. 4 starters back. What are you seeing in that battle for the 5th starter, and then deeper than that, the 6, 7, and 8 spots, guys will have to step in and play?
Right. I think the 5th spot, it kind of depends on, it could be with Lewis Kidd playing right tackle and, a Zach Red at guard, or it could be a Lewis Kidd at right guard and a Connor Wood at right tackle. I feel good about 7. We got to try and really develop that. He said, I think he might even got to 9. If we get to 9, I'd be ecstatic. I don't know if we've ever been anywhere where we had 9, but if we could get to 8, I always felt like 8 is a luxury. 7 is have to have 7. So, we feel. Again, every day you got to go out and reprove yourself, but we've got some 4 guys that played some snaps at least, but again, we're a work in progress there as well.
And then at tight end, you've got a veteran group: Connor Sullivan, Curtis Amos, Wilson Brott. You got some young guys working in there as well. This is a really talented and experienced group. What kind of weapon do you have with your tight ends?
Well, again, I think tight ends are a little bit like the quarterbacks, where each of them kind of do this well and not as good as this, although I think they've done a good job in the offseason of improving their weaknesses, if that makes sense. I don't know that Wilson Brott is a guy that's going to catch 50 passes a year, but he's a guy that I think we can really target 15 or 20 times this year, and he'll catch the football. Connor Sullivan is a heck of an athlete, and Curtis, he's kind of just he's the Swiss Army knife. He can kind of do everything okay, if that makes sense. Ryan Davis is having a really good camp. Didn't redshirt for us last year, played as a true freshman, and so we've got some guys that we got some depth there that you can put any of those guys. Clark Judish is another guy you can put in there, and the thing doesn't come to a screeching halt. So We got to continue to improve.
And then with tight ends, it seemed like in the spring you guys had some pretty good looks with 2 tight end sets. I mean, you've got the depth and the versatility, as you mentioned. How much of that might we see in the fall?
You know, it's great if you've got the tight ends that you can run or pass with, if that makes sense, because then you can be very multiple. So we'll be in a decent amount. We were in a decent amount last year. You know, we got to be able to throw the ball better out of that personnel group, and so we'll have a little bit more out of that personnel group as far as the pass game's concerned. But yeah, if you can have 2 tight ends on the field for a good portion of the time, that's always a good thing. So we'll have to see kind of how that goes.
Well, the offense continuing to come together. The quarterback battle in full swing. Some good position battles at all spots for the offense. Tomorrow on day 5, full pads for the first time for the Bobcats. We'll have it for you here tomorrow on MSUBobcats.com. With the offensive coordinator Brian Armstrong, I'm Jay Sanderson.